Good morning, folks. This is Mr. Jan coming to you from the Landscape Design Classroom, and today I'm going to talk to you about managing greenhouse insects. So the main idea here is how can I keep insect and mite damage to a manageable level? So we say a manageable level because we're never going to be able to completely get rid of all damage within a greenhouse, especially with the vast size of a lot of greenhouses in this area. There's going to be always some sort of level of damage from various insects. So greenhouse conditions for pests. So ideal conditions would be warm, moist, and abundant food supply, and keeps out natural insect enemies. So management practices needed here to prevent insect buildup and for early detection, diagnosis, and treatment. So managing a greenhouse isn't always about the plants you're growing and making sure they're fertilized and whatnot. You have to control your insects as well. So it's a pretty demanding job, especially if you're the manager of that greenhouse, because that's your bottom line right there, the product going out the door. So if you send something out with insects all through it, you're not going to be able to maximize your profits. So how insects harm plants. On the picture on the right here is a picture of some aphids, which are going to attach themselves to that leaf like you see in the picture, and they're going to suck out all those plant juices. So they feed on plants, and they also spread plant disease. So we have vectors. Those are insects spreading diseases, and some examples of that would be aphids, leafhoppers, thrips, and whiteflies. So some strategies for managing insects and mites. That's preventative practices, monitoring everything going on in the greenhouse, biological controls, pesticides, and just touching on that last one, pesticides. If you are a pesticides applicator and you have your license, you can go into greenhouses, but in the state of Pennsylvania, you must have the right license and category on that. So for more information on that, you'll want to check with Penn State Extension. So preventing pest invasions, inspecting all new plants coming in. If you see small white dots on, if you see something wrong with it, you want to inspect those pretty closely and treat them just to make sure you're not bringing anything into the greenhouse. So repairing doors, screens, and ventilators. Anything and everything on your greenhouse should be tip-top shape at all times. So if you see a door that's continually open that you don't want to open, then you want to make sure that you're getting that fixed. And if there's a will or a way, a bug will find its way in. Using clean, sterile media, tools, flats, and other equipment. I always like to tell students to think of their greenhouse kind of like an operating room. Even though you're dealing with dirt, plant life, and things that aren't quite medical, having a clean environment is only going to enhance the plants you're shipping out at the end of the day. Now, and mowing outside the greenhouse. If your greenhouse is located on outdoor, well, obviously outdoors, but if it's located near any sort of grass, you want to make sure you're keeping that grass cut all year round. So keeping the inside weed free. This is something that we continually practice within our greenhouse, removing weeds properly, whether it's cutting them down or by pulling them out. We want to make sure that there's no weeds in the greenhouse because weeds are extremely susceptible for bringing in diseases and insects. So sweeping up standing water. Typically when it comes to standing water, you're going to start getting mosquitoes in the greenhouse, which can decimate plants and also get on your skin and cause some pretty nasty bites. So discarding heavily infested plants. If you have something that looks beyond control, you want to make sure you get rid of that immediately before it spreads onto another plant. Removing trash and debris. Cleaning thoroughly after each production cycle. So once you're moving some of those plants out to either their new home or whether you're shipping them out for sales, once that area is completely gone, you want to make sure you clean that thoroughly. I mean, even with everything with COVID going on right now, you want to make sure all those areas are wiped down, sprayed off, and washed. So a little bit more pest prevention, allowing the greenhouse to freeze in the winter. If you're not using your greenhouse during the winter, leave those doors open, let it freeze in there, because once that temperature drops below freezing, it's going to kill off most of those insects within the greenhouse. Maintaining good ventilation, so make sure you have fans in there, make sure you have vents that you can open up from time to time to let some air flow through, but always remember to practice good greenhouse management with timing and all that good stuff. You don't want to leave your vents open all day because pests can easily come in then. So minimizing wet areas, like we were just talking about, standing water, and avoiding yellow colors on equipment or clothing. So whenever you wear yellow colors within the greenhouse or around it, pests can be very attracted to that yellow color. So, monitoring for insect problems. So weekly inspections of 1% of plants in all sections of the greenhouse. So make sure you're checking plants frequently, at least once a week. Special attention near ventilators, doors, and fans. Typically, you'll find a lot of your problems coming in through those fanways. So whether it's a bee's nest growing in there or different infestations such as aphids or whiteflies, a lot of that stuff comes in to the greenhouse through those ventilation systems. And sticky cards to attract or capture insects. So just like you would see like a fly trap going into somebody's house, or one of those bags outside for whenever you have grubs growing into Japanese beetles, you want to make sure you have things you can capture insects. So sticky cards. So there's several different colors: yellow for winged aphids, leaf miner adults, whiteflies, leaf hoppers, and thrips. Just like we were talking about with not wearing yellow clothing, these bugs are really attracted to that stuff. So if you see the picture on the right, you'll see a bunch of different small insects on there. Those little white guys are most likely whiteflies, and then you might see some aphids right up in there. So blue for thrips, various flies and other insects, and then white for fungus gnat adults. So make sure you take some time to identify the pest that is in the greenhouse before going out and buying something, because you don't want to waste money and buy the wrong thing and it not be effective. So, and it helps in finding heavily infested hotspots. So if you set these out amongst different areas of your greenhouse and you're finding like a larger swarm attach themselves to one card compared to others, that's an area that you may want to spray later on with a pesticide to get rid of those. Sticky tapes. These are used to trap and reduce insect populations, useful for thrips, whiteflies, leaf miners, and fungus gnats. This is also called mass trapping. So the ultimate goal is to get rid of your infestation, no matter what the insect is. So using sticky tapes will definitely do that. And sticky tapes, if you haven't seen them before, are those little windy things that come down from the ceiling. Typically people put them in the house for houseflies. And must be kept dry and free of debris. So if you're watering a lot in your greenhouse, you want to make sure those are either up in the air or away from any water source. So biological control, using beneficial organisms which are predators of harmful insects. The positives, this avoids chemical use. I'm a big proponent of not using chemicals as much as humanly possible. But the negative is it requires more time. So spraying something can definitely kill stuff quicker. But as I said before, using a chemical can be pretty dangerous. Plus, using another insect to take out insects can actually build a better product for you, as those insects are kind of helping you with what's going on in the greenhouse. Other biological controls: insecticidal soap, neem oil, and other non-residual insecticides used before releasing beneficials. So you can use any of these to either wipe down the plants or whatever use you might have for them. But I always recommend make sure you read the label on any of these before you put anything out. So Bacillus thuringiensis products or BT products for caterpillar control without harming beneficials. So this would be more of like, not so much an herbicide, but a selective pesticide. So if you're using these, you're gonna kill off certain things such as caterpillars and leave other good insects in there. and you also won't harm the plant. So using pesticides requires proper rates and application, may require repeated applications, timing related to pest cycles, and as you can see on the right in this picture, there is a chemical storage locker. In Pennsylvania, you must absolutely keep all of your chemicals in a storage locker with a signal word on it. So your signal word here is going to be danger. And depending on the chemicals inside, you may have to change the signal word. Typically, it's an extremely potent pesticide. I would say danger poison on there and have some other graphics on there as well. But we'll be going over that in here in class when you guys study for your PA applicator's license. So rotating pesticides to avoid resistant insects, different chemical classes and different modes of action. So pesticides over time are going to become more useless on certain insects because they're going to build a tolerance to them. So you want to make sure you're switching up your products from time to time. Like I said, make sure you're reading the label on those. And grouping plants frequently infested by the same pest, which can legally be sprayed with the same pesticide. So make sure you're grouping plants that could be hit by that pesticide. I know I keep saying it, but reading the label is the most important thing you can do when spraying any sort of pesticide or putting any product out on your plants, because number one, you may kill it, but also you don't want to spray something on that's just going to be completely useless for that application. And then avoiding movement of infested material through the greenhouse. If you continually move stuff around your greenhouse that's infested, it's just going to infest other plants. So you want to make sure that is taken care of, make sure you're inspecting it, especially if you know that you have something in there that's not going to be an issue for a while. Make sure you inspect that daily before you start moving it around, and make sure it's pretty much cured before, or definitely cured before you start moving that. And again, if it's a massive infestation, the best thing to do at the end of the day would be get rid of that. But that's all I have for you today. If you have any questions, you can contact me down in the landscape design classroom. But I appreciate your time and have a great day, folks.